Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Den live on a pleasant Sunday afternoon in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. It's actually a really nice day out, although it's been a little cool. Usually it'd be a little warmer, springy type stuff, but it shifts from year to year, and I know people are going to say, "Oh my God, it proves everything is changing." Man, I've lived here for close to 50 years. Trust me, it's variable. It really is. But anyhow, hope everybody out there who, is watching this, which maybe none, because I don't see anybody in the chat necessarily, but watching it now or later or not at all, I hope everybody out there is having a good day, doing some cool stuff. So yeah, oh, what a week it's been at work. I figured that's something people can relate to, right? We've all had those weeks at work. For me, I got we're going through like a transition from one database to another at the moment. And the two big requests I had were, all right, first, I got a ton of updates I need to do like over the next couple weeks. Let me do those first before we transfer any data. Okay, no problem. Also, when you do the data dump for the transfer, tell me so that I can stop updating what I'm doing, because I don't want to have to do it twice. Check. Will do. A few days later. Well, we got all the data over. It's in the staging area. Go check it out. So it's like my busiest time of year, pretty much. Well, okay. I have a quarterly process I go through. So one of my 4 busiest times of the year. And I'm having to double enter everything. And I'll tell you what, it's stressful, right? I mean, the work itself is not complicated necessarily, hard to do, but trying to keep things even between the two different databases, which obviously both work a little differently. And I'm getting to the end of the day and I'm just mentally exhausted. There's probably some folks out who are I work outside all day. I'm, heavy lifting, blah, 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 blah. That's really exhausting. And it is. And I've done stuff like that. And I got to tell you though, when you're physically tired and you're sort of done for the day, it almost feels kind of good. You can sit back, you can relax. And you feel like your body feels like it's done something, like it's been through it, it survived, and now relaxation. It's a lot tougher when it's mental exhaustion. It's harder to just, you can't put your brain in a recliner and just go, okay, good, you're done. Man, the brain holds on to it. So anyways, it's been nuts this week. It hasn't been as much fun as I normally have at work, but what the hey, man, that's life. Glad I have a job. I've had it now for about 25 years, right around there. So I'm happy to have it, happy to do the work, good place to work, and glad I could take care of my wife and my daughter and all that kind of good stuff. But just the same, my brain is fried. So what to talk about? I want to rant a little bit. I'm going to rant for a minute. And I know this one goes all over the place. This is probably about as spicy a take as you'll probably ever get in the den, because like I said, I like to keep it kind of fun, kind of friendly, kind of freewheeling. Dude, daylight savings time. Can we cut this crap out? it's an illusion. You know, yes, you get more daylight, but I don't know, just... Oh, Lady Wendelin popping in to say hi and letting me know that it's working, which is always nice, because I could easily sit here and talk for an hour to absolutely nobody without this functioning and not know it. And I don't even know if I'd be that bugged by that. I couldn't embarrass myself. But anyways, dude, here's the problem to me with daylight savings time. First of all, like, you don't need to change the clocks. Why don't we all just start an hour earlier and end an hour earlier if that's what you really want to do? It's kind of silly in a way to change everything around that way. But to me, time and the way we tell time predates any sitting government on Earth. Probably, if we're talking about, because really telling time kind of hinges on noon, sun at its highest point in the sky, right? Because we know dawn and dusk, they're variable. They change over the course of the year. But noon is noon, right? The concept of noon, I'm going to guess, goes back before any nation state on Earth. Probably goes back to caveman days. Noon is noon. And now we have some punk upstart government floating in saying, nah, we can change when noon is if we want to. And if they think they can change the time, the very definition of time, what else do they think they can change? And don't answer, because I think we all know. Yeah, man, to me, it's like, no, snap government back into its place. Time is time. Leave it alone. If folks want to get up earlier in the day, start their jobs or what have you, let them do it. Let them not do it. I don't know, man. I'm like the closest I've ever been to going sovereign citizen is probably over daylight savings time. Mostly just because I think it's dumb. So there you go. So yeah, standard, baby. Make it standard. That's what I want in life. I want a nice standard sun high in the sky noon. You can keep your extra hour of sunlight. Now, of course, I say that as somebody who lives in Las Vegas, Nevada. Let me tell you something. If we could get rid of a couple hours worth of sunlight during the middle of summer, we'd be pretty happy with that, because it's a little warm here. Gets a little bit warm. There's the freakiest thing. And if you live in Vegas, if you've lived in Vegas for a long time, you know this. And I'm sure it's true, I'm sure, in other places. It's certainly probably true in Saudi Arabia, because they get a little hotter than we do. It's probably true in Arizona, etc. Southern California maybe knows it too. Although I think Southern Cal is usually a little bit cooler than we are. But the weirdest thing in the world in Vegas is middle of the night. There's no moon in the sky, so it is pitch black, right? And you walk outside and it's like midnight. And it will still be in the middle, like the hottest part of summer. It might still be 110 degrees outside. And you feel the heat on your body. And you feel like there should be a sun up in the sky that is beating down on you to feel this hot. It's a weird thing. Like the brain just goes, no, this is not right. It can't be this hot in the middle of the night. And I'll tell you, like when it's going full scale and we're, oh man, 4 months probably away from that. I mean, it's going to start getting a little uncomfortable by the end of May. Guaranteed it'll start getting uncomfortable by then. But it's like when you're in the hottest part of summer, like it'll get down sometimes, I don't know, 95, like at the coolest, because we had our air conditioning go out at one point a few years back. And it was taking a while to get it fixed. So decamped wife and daughter and dog to a hotel. And I was trying to stay here because I just didn't feel right leaving the house completely empty. And but then at some point I finally did go to the hotel, but I'd swing by the house every morning early so I could like change clothes for work and all that kind of stuff. And I'd open up the sliding glass door, windows, etc., trying to blow the cool air into the house, knowing it was going to probably get to like 115 to 120 by the hottest point of the day. Man, losing air conditioning in Vegas in the summer is probably like losing, your furnace in the winter in Minnesota. But so it's the sad thing is, like, conceivably then maybe you can start a wood fire, maybe you can pile blankets on, but when it's hot, you can't unhot it. There's no way to really do that. I mean, draw a bath and lay in the bathtub, but that's not the easiest thing to do. Anyways, there's my ranting and raving about nothing at all. So last week or so on Twitter, I saw one of those kind of clickbaity sort of, not Nedbaity, clickbaity posts about a movie you've seen more than 7 times. And it's like, in the era of DVDs, streaming, etc., seeing a movie 7 times is not really that big a deal. And so I'm going, okay. I started wondering, what movies have I actually maybe seen the most? And my first thought was, in movie theaters. Because if you're in the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, before that even, you didn't necessarily see a movie in a movie theater like more than once or maybe twice, especially back in the 70s, because like nobody had any money. You did. And I mean, if it was like a matinee and it was cheap, but the 2 movies that I saw a ton, and it was when I was working and had a car, but had almost no responsibilities, so I could go hit movies almost any time I wanted to. The 2 big ones for me were, I think the first one was Roger Rabbit, because I wanted to be like an animator at one point, which sadly took drawing ability that I did not have. But I was obsessed with Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And I would watch that. I'd go to the movies with friends, and they're going to go to something I don't care about. And I'm like, yeah, you guys go in there. I'm going to go watch this. And then we'd hook up afterwards. And what knocked it off its perch, right, was Batman, 1989. Oh my God, I was obsessed with Batman. Absolutely obsessed with Batman. And I would guess both of those movies, I might have seen like 20 times, more than 20 times in theater, Absolutely obsessed with them. But are those the movies I've seen the most? Overall, probably not. Batman 1966. I've been watching that since I was a kid. If it showed up on TV, I've watched it streaming. I have the DVD. Cyrano de Bergerac is a big movie for me. I've seen that many times. Adventures of Robin Hood. There was a time also where movies would show up cheap on TV. It would be cheap for TV stations to show a particular movie, and they'd play the hell out of it. And so, every week you're floating around TV on like a Sunday, and maybe every other week, and there's that movie again. And sometimes you're sitting, watch them because they kind of work for you. Santa Fe Trail was one of those movies for me. Errol Flynn, Ronald Reagan, Olivia de Havilland. It's the story of John Brown, Bloody Kansas, and that whole where you sort of get to see, I think, let's see, is Errol Flynn, was he playing Custer? I could be wrong on that. But you get to see these like generals who in the future are going to be on opposite sides of the Civil War, all being recent, graduates like from the academy. So they're all kind of working together. I watched that thing. It's been a while since I watched it now, but I used to watch that a lot. The other one, I think it was the first movie I ever really watched with John Wayne in it, was Angel and the Bad Man, where he is, what's his name? Quirt. He's a crook, gets away, and, from like a sheriff who's hunting him through the whole movie. And he ends up, I think it's because he got hurt. He ends up with some Quakers who had a homestead and sort of falls in love with the daughter of the family. I think he might have had a thing going with that actress too, off camera. And then eventually his old gang returns and there's a showdown and all that kind of good stuff. I used to watch that one a lot. It's not a great movie, but it was a pretty solid flick. So you had those, and that's how It's a Wonderful Life became a thing. It's how Christmas Story became a thing, right? They were cheap. They did terrible box office back in the day, and they became perennial Christmas season movies on TV back when you had channels that were not like affiliated with a network or anything. And every year you'd watch probably It's a Wonderful Life, maybe even like 2 or 3 times. It's an amazing movie, and so it's Christmas Story. And that was kind of the same thing. That one I first saw on video cassette from that video store I worked at. Because I remember when the commercials for it, when it first came out, like, I'm like, that looks awesome. And my parents were like, no, not really. We don't want to go. And they didn't go. And so here it is, like maybe, I don't know what it was, how many years later, it's sitting there on the shelf at the video store. I'm like, oh my God, there's that movie. I'm going to get it. I'm going to check it out. I mean, I got like one free rental a day, right? If you're a movie movie buff, working at a video store was like greatest thing in the world back in the day. Tarantino famously was a video store clerk. But it is, if you love movies, man, you got a rental a day for free. So over the course of a year, you could sit and watch 365 movies if you wanted to. So I bring that thing home, plug it in, and I was like, oh my God, this is really good. Like, I really like this movie. And then it seems like sometime after that, it starts showing up on TV all the time. And it becomes a thing, right? And so that's what it also occurred to me, thinking about movies you've seen the most. Christmas movies. Because so many of them you watch every year. Once a year, but every year. So like Miracle on 34th Street. How many times have I seen it? I mean, I'm 52 years old. So I don't know when I first started watching it. Maybe I was 10 or something. I might have seen that movie 30, 40 times. Who knows? A lot of that. But video stores also, besides the fact you can get a free rental, it's a video store that I worked at that I think what gave me the 2 movies that, if I'm completely honest, I've probably seen almost more than anything else. When I first started working at that video store, I was on the swing shift. So it was 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. And I'm like low man onto the totem pole. I'm brand new. It was my first job I ever had. And we were allowed to put movies we wanted to watch up at the front, counter. And they'd get cycled through over the course of the night. And of course, there were some restrictions on what you could play. But they weren't like huge restrictions. But so I wasn't putting anything up there because I'm like, I'm brand new. I don't know anybody, whatever. And, I'm a weirdo. So the stuff I want to watch, nobody else probably wants to watch anyways. So this one woman who worked on the swing shift with me. Every single day put 2 movies in particular up front to watch. Neither of which I was a real big fan of. But there they were. And you're out working and moving stuff and doing everything. So you're kind of watching them. At a minimum, you're listening to them, if nothing else. And I was so sick of these movies. I don't think I ever need to see either one of them ever again for the rest of my life. And one of them, not a bad movie, honestly, but just wasn't really up my alley. But so I would guess for probably the first year I worked there, maybe, I probably saw these movies at least 4 times a week. At least. Maybe more than that. Maybe more like 5 times a week. I say first year I worked there. It could have just been a few months. But either way, probably seen them more than 100 times. Those movies are the all-time classics of Footloose and Grease 2. Not Grease, mind you. No, not Grease. But Grease 2. And so I have to think, what movies have I seen the most times in my life? It's probably those, kind of against my will. Anyways, I was so happy when I got moved to the day shift, and we got to watch more fun stuff, except I had this really weird manager on the day shift who would put in Disney sing-along songs like every single day and just about drove the rest of us nuts. And for some reason, I went ahead and married her later in life. But, and I will say this, I found a bunch of those Disney sing-along songs like at an antique store. I think it was an antique store. And I bought them for her. I bought some videotapes to show there was no hard feelings. But yeah, man, she'd put those things on every day. We're like, because it was the ones where it was like the people in the costumes dancing around. Making memories, taking pictures is making memories. Oh my God. If she watches this later, I don't know if she's still on, but if she watches it later, she'll probably kill me. But so there we go. What news? Not a lot of nerd news this last week, except George Lowe passing away. Did the voice of Space Ghost for was it Cartoon Network? Yeah, right. They had their, what was it? Was it Cartoon? Because initially it was these bumpers that they would do with, it wasn't Space Ghost Coast to Coast yet. It was these weird little bumpers they do with him and Zorak and Brack just doing completely random crap. I was watching those not that long ago on YouTube. Somebody posted a bunch of them. I was dying. It just shows you what you can achieve when you give a bunch of weirdos some money and some, stuff to work with and say, here, do something. Because I'm sure their bosses are like, nobody's really watching it anyway, so what does it matter? Just go nuts. And they went nuts, and they built something that was actually pretty impressive. Led to a bigger show, led to the Brack show. I mean, how many 2 spinoffs from that stuff? But George Lowe, what a voice, and apparently a really nice guy. Sad to see him go. God bless him. Godspeed. That was about the only kind of newsy stuff that happened. So let's look at some of the new stuff that's coming out this week. Let's slide myself over. I'm still in the way. Here we go. That's more or less right. Okay, now this is not new, but Blood Realm, Dawn of the Wolf. There's a campaign. It's still ongoing, but I think they're just about ready to go to print. And I bring it up because I thought I had backed it. I was pretty sure I had. and I had not. I looked at it and I was like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. Holy crap. And then it occurred to me why I hadn't yet. I had just gotten a bunch of the back issues of Blood Realm, and I had been waiting to read them before. There's actually more than that. Before I actually went and backed it, and then managed. It took a while to get them, so in the meantime, old brain forgot. Yeah, so I ran in and backed those. I'll put a link in the show description for the Indiegogo. Really cool though. You get the floppies. They also have a vinyl album of music on the campaign that you can get. I want to see $25, which ain't bad for vinyl these days. Now that vinyl has sort of come back. And interestingly enough, I had gotten a couple Blood Realms in just backing, like Alterna would do, here's our spring campaign. And so I'd gotten a couple and I was like, that's kind of cool. I wasn't mega into it at that point. I looked at this campaign and they had some samples of the music. I don't know if it was on YouTube or whatever. It's something. And my first thought, and you look at the imagery there, and my first thought was, oh, is this going to be like sort of that Warhammer, 40K, crazy stuff where it's, that kind of stuff. Yeah, because it could have been. And I click on like the sample, and it was really pretty cool. It wasn't like that at all. And that was that moment. See me doing that stupid voice. I got to take a drink. But listening to that music, I'm going, okay, well, maybe what I thought Blood Realm is not exactly what it is. And so I'm like, okay, get the back issues, read them. I've read them. I enjoy them. And I should also bring up, since it's also from Alterna Comics, I got the issues 5 through 9. And I just finished reading all these. Great comic book, really cool. Very variable artists, but always good quality. And this one right here, this is one of those issues that takes the bad guys and like kicks them up a notch. You know what I mean? Like in a movie, you got a bad guy, and we're plugged into movies. Okay, there's the bad guy. Oh, see the hero beat the bad guy. Great. And you don't necessarily you're not emotionally invested right away. And then you'll see the bad guy do something specifically very often to a kid or a dog or an animal in general. And you're like, I want his blood. He must die. And that issue is kind of like that with the bad guys that he's got. You're just going, oh, what just happened? Something has to be done about these fools. So, good one. I think some people were a little bit, maybe it was a little controversial. I think it was handled extremely well. They're well written, good art. King Cryptid, if you've never checked them out, maybe you should. Sword of Justice, trade paperback, Volume 1, Fallen Angel. We are in the era of really long titles. Kickstarter has launched. My notes had it launches soon. I think I did see that it has launched from Top Secret Press. I do not know a ton about this, but I looked at the Kickstarter, and I guess it was sort of in that it hadn't launched yet, but you could see some stuff. And the art looked really cool. So it's one I'm going to check out. I haven't backed it yet, but I might. But again, I'll put that link in the show description as well. But if you're into fantasy, you might want to check it out. It looked pretty cool. And this was another one that, again, haven't backed yet. It's coming soon, I believe, still on Indiegogo. Brother Kit, where first of all, I just dug the art. I thought it looked really cool. And that's such the entry point for comic books anyways. And it's why I miss, I miss cheap floppies that you could just be looking in the comic shop or on the stands in like a 7-Eleven and just be like, I don't know what that is, but it looks rad. And I got 75 cents. I got $1. What the hell? Give it a shot. It's a little harder nowadays because with a lot of these, $10, maybe not that bad, but 20, 25. And you're going, I really don't know what this is. I could be plopping that $25 down here instead of somewhere else and be sorry. But I like the look of this one. And I think it has to do with a sort of superhero in training kind of thing. Like all these heroes are like brother or sister something. And so this is Brother Kit, I think, kind of being introduced into this organization for fighting evil, I'm sure, because what else do you fight? Heartbreak, psoriasis? All right, here we go, man. Into the toy world. So they just had that like a big toy fair thing. I was seeing all sorts of stuff. Jaws 50th anniversary, and by the way, I think they're re-releasing it into theaters. Speaking of movies and theaters, in August. If you have never watched Jaws on the big screen, go watch Jaws on the big screen. I think if you adjust for inflation, I think Jaws made $4.5 billion box office. I don't know if that was also from re-releases later. I think it was initial, but keep in mind also, it did that in a smaller world population-wise. So if we also adjusted for population growth, maybe a $5.5 billion movie that was supposed to bomb, let's dump it over budget, over time. Spielberg, the young genius, the hell with this guy. The shark doesn't work. And this thing comes out and pretty much creates the summer blockbuster. Summertime back in the day, that's when the repeats were on TV. Why did they put repeats on during the summer? Because nobody's inside. You're outside. You're enjoying the sun. You're enjoying the fresh air. That's what summer was all about. So throw reruns on. Dump the crap movies into the theaters. Who cares, right? Some people will go in if the movie theater has air conditioning. Who cares? This becomes a phenomenon. If you have never watched it on the big screen, go watch it on the big screen. It's such a great story of how Spielberg took something that kind of wasn't working and they made it work, and almost accidentally made it more effective than it probably would have been if you had the actual shark that was functioning the way it should have. So NECA is putting out some 50th anniversary figures. And there we have Quint and Richard Dreyfuss. Why this character's name is just gone. So, keep it on your desk. And when somebody's, complaining about something, you could hold it up and say, this is no boating accident. And they'll think you're crazy and they'll walk away. But also, and this one is the temptation for me, but only a slight temptation, the classic Jaws game, which involves plastic shark, various objects in his mouth, and you have to lift them out. So it's maybe a little bit like Operation, right? Because if you're not careful, the jaws will like slam shut, and I think it shoots everything all over the place, and you lose. So this is a highly upgraded version, as you can see, because the original was a pretty just basic plain plastic shark. I have almost bought the vintage ones in auctions a few times and never ended up going for it. And if I'm honest, I think I'd still rather have the vintage one. I have no idea what this one's going to retail. And I should, because I should have looked it up. I think it's on pre-order now at NECA's site. So you go check it out. But it is tempting, and I like what they did to make it look more movie accurate in terms of the shark. That's a cool concept. I like stuff like this. This is where large corporations do good, because they take something and just, it seems like they're having fun with it. Like they're brainstorming genuinely cool crap. And you go, somebody is a huge Jaws fan. Somebody knows about this old game. They care. And they're putting out something that's really cool as a result. So we have a few other toy things going that they have announced. Pre-order in March 2025 of a Frazetta Conan. They've done some Frazetta figures here recently. Oh, heck, what's her name? Tigra from Fire and Ice. And I want to say Death Dealer as well. And they are really gorgeous figures. I have not ordered any of them because, again, it comes down usually for me for like, oh, Man of War, Neighbor of the Beast. Hey, man. Oh, you had the original version. Yeah, I know. I want it. I'll get it one of these days, I'm sure, much to my wife's dismay. Where are you going to put that? I don't know. Middle of the dining room table so everybody can enjoy it. So we got Conan, though. They've done some really cool figures. I haven't gotten any because it's a space issue more than almost anything else. I mean, honestly, I'm cheap as hell. I mean, I got a TV back here, cathode ray tube TV that I got for free from a friend. On top of it is a DVD VCR combination I got for $1.99 at a thrift store. Another DVD player I bought for maybe $10. I love cheap. It's like a treasure hunt thing. But I can afford a lot of this stuff. It's just that it's like, I mean, if you could see these shelves, they're just full. But God, these are nice looking figures and something you probably really should check out. Who's making the figure? Man, that is a good question. I know it's partly coming from the Frazetta estate, but I'm sure they're not the ones making it. Oh, crap. You know what? It's the one thing I didn't write down in my notes. And I got this window small, so I can't read. But if you look right under 1/12 scale action figure, I can see Frazetta. I can see the signature. I'm wondering if the rest of it is who's making this one. I'll figure it out and I'll put it in the show description. But yeah, Man of War wants Frazetta Conan figure? That's crazy. I can't believe it. I wouldn't think you'd have any interest in such things as sword and sorcery and bodacious barbarians. Yeah, no, they're really cool figures. And there's a few others. And I presume they're going to be making more over time, which is great. Also, this was me saying, can I do this with the translucent sort of thing? We got on March 13th at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I'm going, does that mean now technically 6 a.m. Pacific because of the daylight change? But on March 13th from Walmart, and it's like a Walmart Con exclusive. This is the 1977 live action TV Spider-Man. You notice the belt, you notice the things on the wrists for the web shooters. I have, sitting right back over there, yeah, maybe it is Mezco that's doing those. Anyways, I have the Japanese live action Spider-Man figure sitting over there on my shelf. I want this one. $24.97, so great price, but when it's this kind of stuff where we're opening it up, pre-order now, I'm like going, does that mean 5 minutes later they're all going to be snapped up by vultures? And I'm going to have to go pay $50 for it on eBay? Because I'm not going to do that. So we'll see. I'm hoping it's something that we can all buy and enjoy. But this is one I'm looking forward to. And kind of crossing my fingers. I know we're not going to get, well, I say I know. I don't think we're ever going to get a Lou Ferrigno Hulk because I don't think Ferrigno likes to do the likeness thing. So I think we might be out of luck on that. But if we could get a red brown Captain America with that shield, the see-through, and the motorcycle helmet, I will be all over that thing. That would be super, super awesome. So we'll see. Jada Toys has a new Scooby-Doo line coming out. Wave 1. And you can pre-order from Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth. These are $30 a piece. We got Shaggy. We got the hell's his name? The Goon. And we got the Mummy. You could see the insane amount of prep I do because I can't remember what this dude's name is all of a sudden. Creeper, the Creeper, right? Okay, I think it's the Creeper. I'm old. Give me a break. Neat looking figures. I like the range of movement they're showing there. Now, this is wave 1, so presumably we got other waves coming. Kind of interesting. No Scooby-Doo in the first wave. Maybe that'll be some kind of weird exclusive thing so they can extract large amounts of money from people's pockets. They do like to do that in this day and age. But who knows? But they are really good-looking figures. I want to say 1/6 scale, if memory serves. That's another thing I need to start putting in my notes. But so in terms of the scale, I don't know if I'm going to get them or not. I've got a Shaggy and a Scooby. You can maybe shut that down. If you look real hard over my shoulder, sitting on top of let's see, wait, right about there. Sitting on top of the Batmobile is a Scooby-Doo, and Shaggy's floating in there behind him, because what goes better with Adam West, Batman, than Shaggy and Scooby? I actually wanted to get him because I got a lot of horror figures, mostly classic type horror. And I put them out at Halloween time, and I wanted a Shaggy and Scooby to have like in the middle of all the monsters freaking out. So I got a couple of those. I don't know if I'll get these, but they do look really nice in my opinion. And who knows? Maybe I'll be tempted. McFarlane Toys, DC The Silver Age, pre-order on April 11th. We have Superman. Now, this is also with their digital. You get some digital thing with them. And I was literally going, wait a minute, is like the figure digital? I think the figure's not digital. But I'm old. But at any rate, I think they got a Joker already that they produced. Adam. And something else. So I think this is maybe like a second wave. But we got Superman. We have a Dr. Fate, who is just one of the coolest designed characters ever. I love the Golden Age because of that minimalist design. Look at this. You got like the blue bodysuit, the yellow trunks, boots, gloves. You got the collar on the cape. Then you got that helmet, which is flippin' gorgeous, man. And it's so simple. And it's what so many designers nowadays, I think, have trouble with, is they tend to go a little too complex. Although, when you have, at this point, damn near 100 years of superhero designs, you sometimes run out of the simpler ones. But like, what's that one character? Invincible? I don't know what the character's called. I know the book and cartoon are like Invincible. That's a pretty nice design. It's minimalist. I saw them from Rippaverse. Pretty minimalist design. I dig that kind of stuff. So we got Soups, we got Dr. Fate, and we got Two-Face. Pretty cool looking figures. I had a dude I hang out with on X. His handle is Finn the Spook, was saying, he goes, is this like a Kurt Swan Superman? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'd like to see some other images of it and see if it has that stocky kind of really thick torso that they used to draw on Superman. Because if it looked a lot like the real Silver Age Superman from the comics, I would be on that one for sure. I ordered that Fleischer Superman recently. I would be on that one too. So we'll see as more information is out there. Again, pre-orders April 11th, so we got a ways to go before that's out. Shout Factory Blaxploitation Classics 4K Volume 1. You can pre-order now for $140. A lot of cool stuff in that one. From what I was hearing, it sounds like they've redesigned the box and people were not happy with the initial design. So nice to see a company, do that kind of thing. And here's what's in the actual box. So that gives you an idea of the movies that are going to be in it. Use the poster designs as covers for the DVDs. Really cool stuff. Love Pam Grier. Probably a great set. And then they also have Shaw Brothers classics that you can pre-order now. Also $140. I don't have an image of what's all's in it, but if you like that stuff, I got to think you're going to like that set. So a couple cool things from Shout Factory, or what is it now called? Is it Shout Studios? I think it's Shout Studios now, technically. All right. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles re-releasing in the theaters for the 35th anniversary. And I am genuinely tempted to go watch this one. And the reason, well, there's a couple reasons. One of them, it's a really solid movie. They did a great job with this thing. I was not the world's biggest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan when this movie came out. I was not a kid, so it wasn't like, I was going nuts for the cartoon. I had like a reprint of the first issue of the comic, fine. So what happened with this movie for me, and this is like my personal story, I'm in high school. It had to be my senior year, because my senior year, I only had 4 classes. So I had time at the end of the day to kill because I got a ride with somebody back home. And you might be able to hear my dog barking out there. And he's just going to have to bark because nobody's home. So we had a comic book shop right by the high school. So after my 4th class, I'd walk over to the comic book shop. We had open campuses back then because they didn't treat us like we were 5. Go hang out at the comic book shop for an hour and a half or whatever. Walk back over so I could get a ride home. I'm walking through this parking lot, and there's this dude who I think was maybe putting flyers on cars. Now, normally a guy approaches you in a parking lot and says, "Hey, buddy, come here." You probably want to go the other way, but I didn't. So what they were doing was they were having a free screening of this movie. And you could get, tickets for this free screening. But here's the thing. Movie wasn't finished yet. They didn't have all the special effects done. So I got a couple tickets for me and a buddy of mine. We went to this thing. So it was interesting. Like, I remember the whole sequence when the turtles are little. That was kind of stop motion. It was literally just the images from the, what do you call that? Where they would draw everything out first. The storyboard. Just images of the storyboard. So I did see it in the theater, but there was a lot that was actually kind of missing from it. And then at the end, you would give your impressions of the movie, if you liked it or not. I think the only bad thing that I remember was about 3 rows ahead of us. There were a couple of nerds watching the movie. One of them has this huge tub of popcorn. No problem there. Butter, lots of butter. Love the butter on the popcorn. He pulls out, this is like the greatest nerd move ever. He pulls out a full container of garlic salt and starts shaking it on the popcorn. And I mean to tell you, he didn't give it a little dash. It was shake, 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 eat a little, shake, shake. And it reeked of garlic in that theater. My buddy and I were dying laughing. So in a way, it was a good memory, even though at the time you're just going, "Oh my God, please." And you're like going, don't live up to nerd stereotypes. You're walking out of a Turtles movie with the worst breath on earth. Come on, man. We have enough problems. Don't make it worse for yourself. Anyhow, so I've seen the movie since, like on DVD, VHS, whatever. But it would be kind of cool to actually see the completed movie on a big screen. I might go check this one out. Probably would be a fun time. The only other things that I know of that are coming out, and I have no images for them, because it's from that toy show thing. So that I see people taking pictures like and posting it on X, but they're not my pictures. I'm not going to use them. Super 7 is doing O-ring Back to the Future figures. And something else. Dang it, I can't think now what it was. I didn't write it down because I just saw it recently. So they're doing some more O-ring figures. Look pretty cool. And McFarlane is doing DC Direct Super Friends in their Batman 66 style. I love Batman 66. I went with Figures Toy Company stuff because it matches my Migos. So I don't have any of those in that McFarlane style. But if you do, look for these. I think I saw pictures of Sinestro, among others. It's based on the Super Friends cartoon series, which again goes pretty darn well with 66 Batman. Those are probably going to be really cool. And when some promotional images from the companies come up finally, I'll probably show it off in a different stream or something. So that's kind of it for all the new stuff that's coming out. I don't have any new acquisitions in the den this week. Yeah, I got a couple things that are being shipped, but it's just those retro Marvel 3 3/4 inch figures. I'd already had Firestar. I now got Spidey and Iceman because got to put together the Amazing Friends. It's just amazing the weird justifications we have, Well, I mean, I got Firestar. I have to get Spider-Man and Iceman now. I mean, it would be stupid not to. Oh, what the hell? I want him. I love that cartoon. That was a real early introduction for me of Spider-Man. Electric Company was the earliest when I thought Spider-Man actually couldn't talk. You just did stop balloons. And I think when I first saw this cartoon, it was like, well, like Spider-Man can talk and everything. That's crazy. I had no idea. I thought Electric Company was comic accurate. I was a kid, for God's sakes. But love that cartoon, so I had to get those. But they haven't arrived yet. So let's round this out with some new watches, some new reads of mine. First up, and this was actually I'll say a reread, except I actually listened to the LibriVox recording of it on YouTube because I knew I wanted to do a review. And I was reading something else in book form at the time. And so I'm like, I'll just throw on and listen to it. It's a pretty good recording. A few mispronunciations in it. Not a big deal. I actually like the guy's voice. I think it goes well with the material. But if you are unaware of what Gladiator is, this is the inspiration for Superman. Now, this is not confirmed. There's no technical proof. But I don't think you could read this book without going, oh, yeah, they lifted Superman from this character. Now, the character is not actually called Gladiator. His name is Hugo Danning. He is given a treatment in the womb by his scientist father that makes him the strongest man on Earth, invulnerable to bullets, can't fly, but he jumps really long distances, and he's very, very fast. It is an extraordinary book written in 1930, so predates Superman by 8 years. I've recorded a whole review, which is going to come out, I think early May is when I have it scheduled. So I'm not going to go into it heavy here, but really good book. It's about his life. And it's what we would nowadays call probably like a deconstruction of a hero, of the concept of a hero. I promise you, Frank Miller, Alan Moore did not do anything that Philip Wiley did not do in 1930 with this character. It's a pretty tragic story overall. Really well written. It sort of spans from like about 1890 to the post-World War I period. So probably to right around 1929 or 30 when the book came out. But if you've never read it and you are into superheroes and all that kind of stuff, really good. It's from 1930, and it has content that you might not think would be in books in 1930. Not necessarily explicit, but yeah, there's quite a few premarital relations going on with Hugo Danning here and there. And the World War I stuff and some of the descriptions of what he does in World War I are like, whoa. They made, I think I got it. Yeah, they did an adaptation in Marvel Preview that they called Man God. And if you look at that image right there, awesome looking image, not much to do with this book and the way it handles the character. That makes it look like a pulp adventure, like Doc Savage, who apparently also is based on something Philip Wiley wrote. This dude, who knows Philip Wiley? Probably the grandfather of 20th century American pop culture in some ways. Because I think he also did something that supposedly inspired Flash Gordon. So Superman, Doc Savage, Flash Gordon, holy crap. But they have done an adaptation before. I've never read it. I don't know if it's any good or not. But if this is public domain, not their adaptation, but the story. If you are an artist, comic book artist, and maybe you're not the greatest writer in the world, but you want to do something, read Gladiator, adapt Gladiator. It is amazing. And if it is done well, it could be absolutely huge because it has a lot of emotional punch to it. But you're going to have to be a really good artist to do it, to pull it off. It is not just guy in skin-tight clothing running around fighting bad guys. It's going to be a lot of people talking, interacting, a lot of faces with emotion that is meaningful. But it is an absolutely great book, well worth reading. I also finished a reread of You Bet Your Life, a Toby Peters mystery written by Stuart M. Kaminsky. Wrote these, well, this one is from 74 or 78. So I think 74. Oh yeah, I got it written on my notes, 74. Toby Peters is a detective in the 1940s, works LA, ends up in a lot of cases with celebrities. Well, I mean, all of them, basically. Hollywood type celebrities. But you get other cameos as well. You got some interesting cameos in this one. It involves Chico Marx into the mob, a Chicago mob, for $120,000 in gambling losses. And he says it wasn't me. So MGM hires Toby Peters to go figure it out if he can, because the folks who want the money are saying, if we don't get the money, the piano guy loses his fingers. Okay. Great books. It's a mystery. Toby Peters is a smart ass, so there's some comedy in them as well. You get the little cameos. You get the 1940s well-written, the setting. He does a great job with it. And Peters is an interesting detective. He's, getting on in years a little bit. He's maybe in his 40s or something. A lot of scars, nose broken many times. And this is his job. And he does his job, but he doesn't always like it. But fun books, fun reads. They're not super long. There's a whole series of them. I got a couple others, and I'm going to probably review them at some point. I think of this review I did is going to be up in like April. But so a couple rereads, nothing brand new. The only new thing I've seen. There's one other thing that I didn't prep, but I watched The Ambushers. You can find it free on YouTube. One of the Dean Martin, Matt Helm films. Man, it is so of its time. A lot of really awkward, sexual revolution stuff. I think I didn't love the movie. And I think what hurt it was that the Dean Martin quips are, for the most part, just not that good. It sounds silly to say it's beneath, Dean Martin and Matt Helm, but it kind of was. Like James Bond's little, quips after a kill were better than Matt Helm's. And this is meant to be more of a comedy. So it wasn't great, but what I did like, the female lead in the show, played by Janice Rule. Now, she would later go on to become I want to say psychotherapist. Smart, and you could see it in her eyes. And I really liked her, even though they had her doing some dumb stuff. But I liked her, and there were moments in the movie where it's her and Dean Martin, and they're getting to converse and actually act a little bit that were quite good. But other than that, not one of the best Matt Helm movies, in my opinion. I had not seen that one yet, and maybe now I know why. The other one I just finished watching before I did this stream, 1986 Wraith. I remember that thing on the video store shelves, that case. Never watched it, right? It's on Tubi. I throw it on, and I'm like, whoa, hold on. Charlie Sheen, Sherilyn Fenn, Randy Quaid, Nick Cassavetes, John Cassavetes' son with Gina Rowland. It is a B movie. If I'm just looking at it as a film, it's bad. Wraith is bad. It's not a good movie. A lot of times with B movies, like, they don't have time really they don't have time to reshoot scenes. They don't have time to, like, let's do another take and get it right. So you notice this in a lot of B movies from back in the 40s on. Sometimes the line delivery is not great. The timing's a little bit off, but it's like, nope, we don't have time. And you get a little bit in this one, but also the like punks that are in Cassavetes' gang are among the worst actors I think I've ever seen. I threw I posted on X, when I was maybe like 30 minutes in. I go, I don't know if I want to see the punks in this movie die more because they're evil or because of their acting. There were two characters in particular that, oh my God, it was rough. Okay. That's if you're just reviewing it like a real normal movie. Wraith is intended for young men, teenage to early 20s, right? For that intended audience, Wraith is damn near perfect. I mean, it's still badly acted for the most part, and the plot doesn't really make sense, but you got violence, you got explosions, you got girls in bikinis, you got some bare boobs in it at one point, you got explosions, you got a completely rad, souped out, crazy looking car with a bunch of other awesome cars, and they're racing. And a really good soundtrack, to be honest. Like a really, really good soundtrack from 86. So from that standpoint, Wraith is probably like, for that audience, Wraith is probably like an A-, a B+ picture right in there. From just a 52-year-old guy sitting and watching a movie, I'd probably give it like a, I don't know, D- in that area. But important thing about movies is they're intended for particular audiences and to entertain those audiences. And the audience that this was intended for probably would have walked out of that theater completely stoked, going, dude, that was totally rad. And they were kind of right in their way. But there you go. You get a lot of early performances from characters. Sheen's actually pretty decent in it. Sherilyn Fenn had a little work to do, but, she's pretty good. And she's got that natural charisma. Randy Quaid is like this sheriff in this little Arizona town. And his delivery is not different enough from Cousin Eddie's that even though it's a serious role, I was like, I don't know. I was just picturing Cousin Eddie as a sheriff. So there you go. Wraith from 1986. I've been blathering now for a little over an hour, which means it's probably a good time to wrap this dude up. So how do we end these? God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another, because it is a rough world out there, and maybe it's getting rougher. Maybe it's getting better in some ways and worse in others. I don't know. But I know for people, folks go through hard times. Try not to kick them when they're down. It ain't going to cost you nothing. Try to have some fun. Potato cakes are back at Arby's. Go get some potato cakes. Watch a crazy movie like Wraith. Go read a book. Go read Gladiator or listen to it. You can do it for free. There's good stuff out there. Enjoy it. If you enjoyed this little live stream, like, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. But try to have some fun out there. I will hopefully see you again soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Oh, coming up this week, tomorrow, Justice League International number 10. Part of that Millennium crossover series. On Wednesday, I do a review of Pushover, a film noir with Fred McMurray and Kim Novak. Some great images in that one. You might want to check that one out. And on Saturday, I do a little deep dive into the first ever Star Trek role-playing game from 1978, I want to say. It was designed to go with some miniatures that were being made for Star Trek. It's pretty rad. Really simple rules. I really dig them. But we're going to go through that book on Saturday. So join me for all the goofy, nerdy, dorky fun. And hopefully I'll see you then. So have a good Sunday. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.